I had a surgery.
Like a minor one or…
Not exactly minor. I'm 26. And we've been together for almost 3 years, me and my fiancé, and we're getting married next spring. The venue deposit has been paid since October, and there's a Google spreadsheet with 17 tabs that I made. We have a dog, a rescue named Fig, a beagle mix with one ear that folds differently than the other. We're the kind of couple that people describe as solid, which I think means we don't seem like we're performing anything. My joints have been hurting since late winter, mostly in the mornings, the kind of ache that makes you think you slept wrong or that the apartment is too cold. Which it is. We have one radiator that functions and one that just makes noise. I waited almost 2 weeks before I said anything to him about it. Not for any particular reason, just because it seemed like the kind of thing that would resolve on its own. When it didn't go away, I made an appointment with a rheumatologist, which I found through my insurance portal, and then spent about 4 evenings reading Reddit threads, about at 11 at night with my phone screen turned down low. Not because I was hiding it from him, just because I hadn't decided how much I wanted to talk about it until I knew more.
Did they say how long this takes usually?
The appointment or the whole thing?
Either…
I don't know yet.
Okay.
He came with me because he offered, and I said yes, mostly because the office was in a part of the city I didn't know well, and he knew the parking situation, which sounds like a joke but isn't. They gave me the intake clipboard at the front desk, the kind with the hard plastic back, and I took it to the seat I'd already picked next to him and started filling it out. He was on his phone, something to do with work, and I could hear him breathing beside me in that background way, where you stop noticing it's a sound and it just becomes part of the room. The form had the usual sections: allergies, current medications, family history, and then a box that said prior surgeries with lines underneath. I had a surgery.
Like a minor one or…
Not exactly minor. I picked up the pen and wrote, and the scratch of the ballpoint on the paper was so much louder than I expected, which doesn't make any sense. It was a normal pen on a normal clipboard, but I heard it in a way that felt almost physical. He glanced over, not intrusively, just the way you glance at someone sitting next to you, and asked what I was writing, and I said the word out loud. The surgery had been at 22, a couple of years before we met, and it was not a secret in the sense that I had decided to conceal it. It was more like it had closed in a way that felt complete, the way some things do. I had not thought of it as something I was not telling him. I had thought of it as something that had already been resolved before he existed in my life. But, in the waiting room, with the pen still in my hand and him looking at the form, I felt that distinction collapse in real time.
So this was before us.
Yeah, a few years before.
And the joint stuff, is that connected or you don't know yet?
Possibly.
Okay.
I've been reading about it. What he didn't know, and what I hadn't said anything about yet, was that the joint issues might be related, that this was one of the things I had been reading about in those forum threads, the ones I opened on my phone at night and never mentioned. There's a whole corner of the internet that I had apparently been quietly inhabiting for the past month. People asking similar questions, people with similar timelines, nobody using their real names, everyone speaking in the slightly careful register of people who have figured something out and are not entirely sure what to do with it. I had read probably 40 posts and commented on none of them. By the time I was sitting in that waiting room, filling out that form, I had already gotten somewhat far down a particular road, and he did not know the road existed.
And you mentioned the timing was around 4 years ago?
About that, yeah.
Any symptoms in the months after that you noticed at the time?
Nothing I connected to it.
That's not unusual. These things can be slow to surface.
The specialist was calm and thorough, 52 or so. The kind of doctor who writes things down in a way that makes you feel like what you're saying is being properly recorded. And she asked me follow-up questions about the prior surgery, with the same flat neutrality she used for everything else. She mentioned that a removal consultation might be worth considering, given what I was describing, and I said I'd think about it. He didn't ask anything more in the car on the way home, which at the time I read as him giving me space, which was probably true, and also at the time felt slightly like something else that I didn't examine too closely. We stopped for groceries on the way back, and I remember standing in the cereal aisle putting the same cereal we always get into the cart, and for a moment, the whole day seemed like something I had imagined. 2 days later, I asked him if he'd be able to drive me to a removal consultation, and that was the moment, I think, not the waiting room, not the form, but that because he asked what I meant, and I explained, and I watched his face do the thing where it's still, but something behind it is moving. He wasn't loud about it, which is consistent with who he is. He's not someone who raises his voice, and in some ways, that made it harder to read, because there was no register to grab onto. He said that same evening, why hadn't I ever said anything? And I said it had never come up, which was the true answer, and I knew as I said it that it was also not quite the full answer, and I think he knew it too, and neither of us said that part out loud. Fig climbed up between us on the couch the way she always does, circled twice and dropped down with the weight of a dog who has no idea what is happening and finds the couch entirely satisfactory. The spreadsheet with 17 tabs was still open on my laptop on the coffee table, the venue deposit column highlighted in a colour I'd chosen to mean confirmed. Neither of us reached for the remote.